first question is the easiest. Could you say and spell your name for me, please?
Michael Burgraff, Michael Burgraff.
And what's your title, Michael?
My title is Executive Director here at a Center for the Arts in Fergus Falls, Minnesota.
How long have you been the Executive Director?
Just over 8 years here. 30 plus years in the industry. As a matter of fact, I was that kid in the neighborhood. We used to go downtown in Superior and see the movies and come back, and I would get enough kids to do the movie that we just saw as a play and charge all of our parents just enough so we could go get ice cream. So I guess it's been in the blood forever.
So for someone who's unfamiliar with the art, and this is a big question. I know that there's a lot of elements to this, but for somebody that's unfamiliar with the overall general art scene here in Fergus Falls, how would you describe the art scene in Fergus Falls?
Robust, amazing, phenomenal. It is an epicenter for the creative arts for our whole region, and it's very exciting to be a part of that.
Any explanation as to why or how that came to be?
An incredible number of passionate people who have either moved to the area or have been a part of this scene for quite a while. I mean, it goes back to Rebecca Peterson, who started this facility more than 20 years ago, and her passion to form the Cadets Gallery. And even beyond that, we have some great old pictures back from the 40s and 50s of people who did a review every year, a wonderful review. And speaking of which, it goes back even farther than that. If you look at the old pictures of downtown, the Fergus Falls Center for the Arts is nearing its 100th anniversary. In 2021, it will be 100 years old. It started out as a legitimate theater here in town, and then because the talkies were so popular, it went to a movie theater. It became that wonderful theater in town that showed all the movies in the 50s and 60s. As that started to wane, like most movie theaters, it kind of became that place downtown. In the 80s, it was ready to become a parking lot. It was designated by the city to be bulldozed. And it was a citizens organization, again, who, with their passion for the arts, purchased the facility, raised over $1 million, renovated it. Now, the funny thing is they kind of renovated it just for them. They were a jazz singing group, which is what makes us a very unique little facility, because we don't necessarily have the flies or the wings or those other pieces. But it is a beautiful hall. It is 400 seats in a town of 13,000. We have been increasing our sponsorships and our memberships and the number of patrons who are coming to events over the last handful of years. It's always been popular. People have attended. The town understands, I think, along with some of the arts pieces, that we are one of the legs on the stool that holds this town up. We could lose sports and the stool would totter and fall over. We could lose arts and the stool would totter and fall over. And I think people see that those two pieces, even though some folk may never come out of the football stadium to attend productions here, we try to do something for everybody, and at least they understand. As the same, those people who want to hear Bach and see those things don't necessarily get to the football games. That as a community, a well-rounded community, and a community for the future, it needs to involve all those things.
And you were talking a little bit earlier, the footprint, if you will, that this community or this place has. I mean, how would you describe your patrons that come here? I mean, where are they coming from? How far are they coming from? How often are they coming? How does that play out?
I was actually amazed because we weren't gathering data. We had an old ticketing system where they were hand tickets and not gathering or compiling the information like we should. A couple of years ago, we went to an online ticketing system, arts people, which we just love and adore, and we're able to track all of those patrons by a zip code. And we've compiled the information over the last 2 years. And in Minnesota, there are 78 counties. For the last 2 years, consistently, 35 counties of the 78 in Minnesota, people have purchased tickets. 9 counties in North Dakota, different counties throughout North Dakota. And we went one further, and we had 17 of the 50 states of people who have purchased tickets here at a Center for the Arts. And that is purchased. When I first asked somebody, guess how many? They said, well, it's got to be a lot because of all the summer programs you do. You draw those folk from the lakes. And I said, no, those are free concerts. so we're not compiling that information. So I believe that those numbers are even larger.
When you factor in
when you factor in those concerts where we haven't compiled that information, where it's free, where we're not getting those zip codes, absolutely. I think that 35, that 9, that 17 really does go up, but we don't have
Right.
we don't have the numbers to prove it.
Right.
I also think the state of Minnesota, along with the Minnesota Citizens for the Arts, started doing studies a number of years ago. Forever and ever, as arts people, we would say, we make a difference in the community. We bring in money. We provide for the economy. And the business people would go, great, show us. And we go, but we know we do. We know we do. Well, we did start compiling that information, and it was astonishing. The millions and millions, and in the state of Minnesota, over $1 billion to the arts economy. And then they broke it down in regions. And the very first year, Center for the Arts, Fergus Falls itself, was a part of that study statewide. And there was a little blurb in there that there were 3 anomalies in the state: Grand Rapids, I'm not going to remember the second, and Fergus Falls went and beat the numbers that were predicted for patrons attending productions throughout the entire state. So again, those cold hard facts, it's not just something we make up. The people here really do appreciate and come to the arts here in Fergus Falls. And it's one other thing as we're doing this, the arts. One of the things that I always, when I'm talking to groups, we call it the arts. And I look back at them and go, we call it the arts, but why should we? Because we don't call it the sports. I mean, there's theater, there is music, there is dance, there's all these different kinds of musics. There's different kinds of sculpture and paintings and on and on for the arts, in the same way that there's soccer and football and badminton and on and on and on. So people don't have to, you don't have to say, oh, I don't like the arts. I bet there's something in the arts that you really do actually love, and it's just finding that little niche and being a part of it.
So, and again, this is probably a pretty big question. I just got to push a button here to make sure that I'm getting all this awesome stuff, because this is awesome. Just in case you're wondering, I know you know that, but this is exactly what we were needing. Bear with me just one more second.
Not a problem.
So if I was, okay, let's say I live in Edina,
yes,
or I live in Fargo, or I live wherever, right? And I'm like, and I'm a connoisseur of art, right? Like I of multiple forms of art or specific forms of art. Like, where should I start, or how does I don't need you to walk me through 3 days in Fergus Falls,
right,
but
right.
But if this is new to me, if I'm just discovering this gem, like how do I get deeper? Where do I start? What are the 2 or 3 things that stand out that I got to come and experience? Do you think?
Oh, now the 2 or 3 things. Okay.
Well,
no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I would always start on the internet these days. Find the websites. If you are an art connoisseur, it's not that hard to find our Regional Arts Council and see all of the art that's happening in the area. Find that specific thing that relates to you. Do you want to go see a glass blower during the fall colors? Because that's available to you here. A Center for the Arts brings in not only local, but regional, national, and international artists from all over the world. We have a wonderful group coming from Canada. We've got people coming from Mexico next year. We've had people, again, literally from all over the globe coming to our little 13,500 person village. And people look at Fargo, and we try to remind Fargo that the highway goes both ways. And if you are truly looking for a special piece of art or a special something, again, a perfect example is next week with Levant du Nord coming down. They are one of Canada's greatest groups out of Quebec. And we in this area don't necessarily know, the people here don't know what they're getting, but we have people calling from all over Canada saying, how much are tickets? How do we get there? Because that group also posts on their website, and how far is it of a drive across the border to get to Fergus Falls, Minnesota.
And is there is there a way to describe, and you might have touched on this already, and if I wasn't paying attention, I apologize, but is there a way to describe the artists that exist here? I mean, everybody that, I talked with Carl
Zachman.
Carl, I talked with Amanda, and, they've each kind of given their own description, but, I mean, we're pretty fortunate to have the amount of quality artists that we do, are we not? And if so, how would you describe the quality of artists that reside here, that work here?
Artists have a passion, and artists find a place where they are comfortable and they can create. And it is a beautiful area for creation. And so you do have the Zachman sculptures, both father and son, producing works of art for all over the world here. You have, as a potter, not only do this, but I have a studio at home, so I create ceramics. And you fall into a group and you get to know each other. And I was astonished at how many ceramicists there are in this area. And you share and you talk. We here at a Center for the Arts have our lobby space that we also use as a gallery. And we try to use it for emerging artists. And we have a list longer than we'll ever be able to get in here of people from the region who are incredibly talented, who are able to do that art. But again, it's not only the art here getting out, but it's also the art that we bring in. So it's that mix of bringing in. One of my favorite things is that we have brought in a number of acts where people say, I can't believe you brought them here. How did you get them? And I said, it's easy. I made a phone call. Most groups that for the performing arts, it's just a matter of how much, and does it make mathematical sense for our 400 seats to be able to get them in. If we need bigger, we had an event this summer where we put 1,000 people out in front of our building for an outdoor concert. And people enjoy that, and yet the next day, a handful of those folks will be over in the Cadets Gallery looking at another local artist. It's the patrons, it's the people, and of all qualities and sizes. We have a young gentleman here whose name is Bo Anderson, and he just graduated from high school. He is keeping our organ program alive. We have a Wurlitzer organ here at a Center for the Arts, and without Bo doing his couple of concerts a year, that organ would be firewood. And so it's those passions that people are able to express themselves here in Fergus Falls, that people are not crushed. They're encouraged to be artists. They're encouraged to follow their dreams and be passionate about something, as long as they stay here.
Anything, I hate to say that's the best questions I've got, but you've done such a good job of answering. But I mean, anything else that you think is important? I have one other question.
Yes, sir.
I have one other question, and this is kind of specific. So, if I were to walk, what street is in front of us here?
This is Lincoln Avenue.
Lincoln Avenue. Okay.
Yes.
And you don't have to take me building by building or brick by brick, but that's a pretty funky, cool. You know what I mean? Like Lincoln.
Oh my goodness.
So how would you describe the amount of, and not just galleries and things like that, but there's bike racks, there's this. I mean, how would you describe the way that art has impacted the cityscape, if you will, of downtown Fergus Falls?
The art that you see, the art that we're doing, is something that has been years in the making. And while there's always been a passion for the art here, it hasn't always been something that people were as excited about. And I think of late, people are really starting to understand that art can draw people to your community, that art of all kinds can make families do something together and feel good. Do we have the largest sculptures downtown? Absolutely not. Do we have the coolest galleries there are out there? Absolutely not. But what we have are all of these wonderful places that work together and understand that we're not competing. We are artists and we love to share. And we love to share that with people who are coming into our community and out of our community. You're right. I mean, right down to one of the better galleries in town is the hospital. They put different artists up on the wall there. The Spot has theirs. Union Pizza. We have Lake Region Arts Council, who has 2 galleries where they're at, just around the corner from us. The Cadets Gallery right across the street from us. The Center for the Arts with us. M State, which is probably one of the most open and available community colleges or universities that I've ever attended. Their art collection, their gallery spaces, their theater program, their music programs are top notch for a 2-year technical college. And so it has infused itself into this entire community. And I think more and more and more, as people are looking to rediscover what they had as kids or to move back to communities where they were raised, that the arts plays a very important part of that.
Perfect. Okay, so now my last question is, anything else that you think is important? Anything that you want to make sure that people know about a Center for the Arts or the arts in general, or a specific art form that people need to know about here in Fergus Falls?
Art is subjective, and you need to find what, as somebody coming to town, what your love and your passion is. There are sculptures as you walk in the woods, if that is your passion and your love, or biking. There are still those things available. Art is funny, and this is going to be a long answer to your question.
That's fine, yeah.
But you know, we talk about, and I hear people say, well, it's just the arts. Do we really need the arts? How important can the arts really be? I still have people ask me if I do this full time, and it's a 60+ hour a week job. But arts evoke emotion. One of my favorite things when I go out to speak to groups is to ask, what was the largest arts funding group in the United States until just recently? And you know, their hands will go, you know, the National Endowment for the Arts or the Minnesota State Legislative Body, and it's not. It's the United States military. All of us are patrons of the arts through our tax dollars, because the United States military has all of their bands. They have art galleries across the world. They have theater spaces where they know how important it is to evoke emotion and to have people have that creative outlet to be human beings. And it's fun and exciting. And if you don't believe me, go to a sports event and cover your ears and try to say the national anthem and feel that same swell as when 5,000 people sing it together. I mean, it's incredible when you think about the art that happens around you and every day. And so come visit it here. There's a lot of it going on. Come to Fergus Falls, because there's always something happening here. Do check the websites, but if you can't find something, it's the biggest joke in town. There's nothing to do here. Well, as a community that's vying for weekends, we dare you to find a weekend where there's not something going on.
Perfect. Anything else?
No.
No, that's all good.